Hello, everybody. This is AK. I'm back. So, yesterday, I had two videos, right? I released two videos, one in the morning and one in the evening. And in the morning video, which I used my voice, I said, I explained why I use AI to make videos recently, right? And I also explained that I had another video which was scheduled for 7 p.m. in the evening, and that video was about OCBC, and it was a relatively long video by my standards, right? It was 12 and a half minutes, right? And that one was still using AI because I made that when I was still feeling unwell and my throat was on strike, like I said. Right, and I personally thought that it was a rather good video, right? Plenty of details, and I also injected plenty of explanation of the terms, and of course I also talk about the possibility of a special dividend from OCBC, right? So in the morning video I said that, if you don't like listening to AI voices, then give that video a miss, right? Skip it. But many people still watch the video anyway, right? And I can understand that because there might be some juicy information, right? So I received and I've seen all the comments, some of them positive, some of them negative but constructive, some of them negative and simply negative. Didn't like AI, right? So I've told the Mr. and Mrs. AI that they failed their probation and they are packing their bags. So no more contents using AI in the future. So whenever my throat is unable or unwilling to work, I'll just have no content for that day, right? Or a few days or a few weeks, whatever the case might be, right? So like what I've said before, YouTube is a hobby, and a hobby shouldn't be stressful. A hobby should be enjoyable, right? So if it's stressful, then I might give up on the hobby, right? So I want to enjoy YouTube. So if AI is not something that people like and they keep complaining, it's not something I'll enjoy as well. So they are packing their bags and they are leaving Singapore. Right. So anyway, that's the adventure that we had with AI here in my channel. The next thing I want to talk about is retail REITs in Singapore. Specifically those few that you see on screen: Suntec REIT, Lendlease REIT, and MPACT, right? Maple Tree Pan Asian Commercial Trust. Very long name, very pretentious name. Okay, and of course I've made videos about all three REITs before, and I'll leave links to those videos in the description box below in case you have not seen them yet. But if you are big supporters of these REITs, then maybe you want to skip those videos and skip the rest of this video because you might not like what you hear, right? Right, in the past videos I did say that I wasn't interested in adding to Suntec REIT, or I wasn't interested in buying into Lendlease REIT. I definitely wasn't interested in MPACT, right? And the reasons in a nutshell for Lendlease and Suntec had to do with their balance sheets and how a lot of their debt were on floating rates, and they will continue to be impacted by interest rates being higher for longer, right? And as for MPACT, I said I didn't like their properties in China and Hong Kong, and also Japan. And that the merger between what was it called, Mapletree North Asia and Mapletree Commercial Trust, the merger I thought was a mistake, because it's like mixing the good portfolio with the bad portfolio to give you something that's somewhere in between, right? And I thought Mapletree Commercial Trust unit holders got the shorter end of the stick. That was what I said, like in a nutshell. But to have the full details, you might want to watch those 3 videos I produced in the past. And of course, fast forward to today, we see that Suntec REIT DPU has been falling, right? And in July it fell 12.5%, and 4 days ago it fell by another 12%, right? And Lendlease Global Commercial REIT also saw their DPU falling by almost 20%, right? So this has, I mean, this is, we could see this coming from a mile, because it was all in the balance sheet, and given the current day environment, we could tell that this was going to happen. But still, there were analysts who were shouting buy, right? Why? Because they say that, well, interest rates coming down, it will benefit these REITs. The argument was as simple as that, and people who didn't stop to think just bought into the argument and just, took it wholesale, right? And that's why I say it's so important to do our own due diligence and do some critical thinking on our own. Don't just take what people say at face value, because they could have hidden agenda, right? When brokerages tell you buy, you buy. If you lose money, they still make money. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. And then for Mapletree, MPACT, I said I didn't like the merger, what the sponsor Mapletree did, right? I mean, it's to their benefit because they had a REIT that was dying, right? Mapletree North Asia was dying, and they needed some help, So it's like the old Chinese custom, you have a son who's very ill, and he's very ill, and then you want to 冲洗, so you get a concubine for him or something, and hopefully that will give him a better health. Make him recover. Okay. It's some silly Chinese customs. I'm Chinese, but I think that's silly. Right. So basically you just ended up with something that's 半死啦, half dying, half living. Yeah. So MPACT is not in a good place, so the DPU has come down by almost 12%. And all thanks to what's happening in China, and of course their portfolio in China and Japan not doing well. And now what's going to happen? The managers say they're thinking of ways to rejuvenate, right? So they're thinking of like how to sell away some properties, probably the problematic ones in Japan and China. If they can sell, they'll try to sell them. Then why do you do the merger in the first place? Right, if your Singapore assets are the one that's pulling the weight, you have dead weight in China and Japan. Why did you have to do the merger in the first place? I mean, you think about it, then you'll have the answer, right? But I think a bigger trend that we have to worry about is the RTS, which is the MRT line that we're going to have to Johor Bahru, right? I mean, it's under construction now. It's going to be completed by end of 2026, right? Ever since the pandemic ended, right? COVID-19 pandemic became endemic, right? Ever since the pandemic ended and then the borders opened again, people from Singapore had been going into Johor Bahru to do their shopping, right? Big jams on the causeway, but that doesn't deter people. People are still going to Johor Bahru to do their shopping, right? Cars being stolen and all that kind of thing. People didn't care, they still go to Johor Bahru to do their shopping, right? And now, Once upon a time, I used to take the train to Johor Bahru to do some shopping, once a week or something, once a month or something, just for fun, But according to my niece, it's so hard to get train tickets nowadays, right? I mean, of course, I've not had a passport for a few years, and I stopped going overseas, so I didn't know about that. Imagine when the RTS is completed in 2026, and it's even more convenient for people to go to Johor Bahru to do their shopping. What's going to happen to the shopping malls in Singapore? The retail REITs are going to suffer even more, right? And like I say, this is something that the writing is on the wall. We can see this from a mile away, right? As it is in the recent research, right, it says that 55% of Singaporeans are actually considering Johor Bahru as their new home. They're considering moving to Johor Bahru. 55% because of cost of living considerations. It's all about money. So when the RTS completed, we are going to see that happening. I mean, it's even like, you talk about Maple Tree, right? Like I said about MPACT, right? How their Singapore properties are the ones that are pulling the weight now because China and Japan not doing well. Their properties, they are not doing well. But even VivoCity, now you have vacancy. Previously VivoCity was 100% occupied all the time. Even now, VivoCity, you have vacancy. I think if I remember correctly, the vacancy is like 7%. Right? So I mean, it's all a sign of what's to come. It's a sign of what's to come. Right? So if you investing in Singapore retail REITs, right, apart from what I said about how REITs are not very attractive because they distribute 90 to 100% of their distributable income in order to give like 5 to 6% distribution yield, which is relatively speaking not as attractive as investing in the banks. I'll include a link to that video in the description box below as well. It's not just that, right? It's something else that's coming. It's going to be like being hit by a train. Right. So if you are still thinking of investing of retail REITs at this point, you might want to think very carefully. Like I said, is price and value, they are two different things, right? People say, oh, you see, the unit price went up already. I was right. Then you see your DPU going down. It's price and value, right? So I'm not talking down on anyone's investment. Like I've said before, I'm not talking down any investment. I'm just stating things from a objective standpoint, right? So if AK can talk to himself, so can you. Bye-bye.